Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Maaike and today I am doing a extra video for you because I have found this reading challenge that's going on that is being done to, well, not a reading challenge, but a tag challenge. And the proceeds of this is going to go to a COVID-19 relief fund. So I thought we could do this right now, plus I think it's a really fun one. It was started by Rachael Marie, if I'm not mistaken. Nobody tagged me in this because I'm like super small, but I just thought it would be a fun one to talk about. So I've got a little note here because some of the things I will otherwise forget about. There's a little checkboard to check this off, and what this video is all about is these are 18 booktube favorites. And the question is, did I read it? And if yes, did I enjoy it? Yes or no? So these are a mix of authors as well as books. And the first author on the list is Angie Thomas. And Angie Thomas is best known for The Hate U Give, I believe, which I believe is sort of like a book written in verse. And I remember a few years ago when this came out, a lot of people were loving it. Like so many people were raving about it, and it never really, sparked my interest. So that's one I don't have, I don't own, I'm not really interested in it either. The next book on here is the Shatter Me series by Tahereh Mafi, and that is something I have on my shelves. I have them. I should hold them up like this. I have these. I have never read them though, and I've had them for a while. I definitely bought this when I first started watching BookTube, so like a good 2 or 3, maybe 4 years ago, and I just never got around to them. So this is definitely on my to-read list for 2020. I definitely went through a couple of these like BookTube favorites over the years, and I sort of pick and choose like a series like once a year to read. They're not always very successful, so I'm a bit nervous about this because this is very sort of that YA dystopian kind of stuff, so I'm not sure whether I like this, but who knows. And then the next author on the list is Leigh Bardugo, and I definitely have a couple of Leigh Bardugo's books. I've read the entire Grisha trilogy, but my favorite by her was the duology. I'm not even sure what the duology is called, but Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. Like, I love these. I really liked it. The Six of Crows one is a bit more of like about a heist, and then Crooked Kingdom is about the aftermath of the heist. And this is set in a fantasy world that's very much based upon 17th century Amsterdam. I'm Dutch. Amsterdam is sort of like a thing. So yeah, of course, I kind of vibed with it for that reason. There's a lot of Dutch words in here too. So I thought that was a fun touch. I ordered King of Scars, but I've heard very mixed reviews about it. And I also ordered her adult novel called Ninth House. Right, then another book that I have, The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is a book that I read the first one of. It's a 3-part series, and I just kept this around because I love the cover. The book itself, not my favorite. I thought it was a little too sort of stuck at the surface kind of thing for what I like. And I had just finished reading one of the other books I need to mention in a bit, but one of the Shadowhunter series that's also like fae-based, and then I went into this, and it just felt very similar, and it just wasn't really one that really did it for me. I kind of liked it. I liked the main character a little bit, Jude, but I didn't like all the twists and turns towards the end. I thought it was a bit convenient plot-wise to have those twists there, to sort of have a trilogy to keep going. I just felt it was a bit, Then we have another author on the list, and that's Victoria Schwab. And Victoria Schwab, or V.E. Schwab, has written quite a few books. I've only read one of her series, and the first book in the duology, so I read A Darker Shade of Magic, and I read Vicious, but that's it. I really liked A Darker Shade of Magic. I think it's a great way if you read a lot of YA fantasy, but you want to go more into adult, because this sort of bridges the gap very well between YA and adult, I think. Plus it has the Grey London where we start the story is very sort of like historical fiction inspired. So I thought that was really cool too. I really like the magic system in here. I really like the story. I really gelled well with the characters. This was super enjoyable. I still have to read her duology, The Dark Duet and Our Song, whatever, the one with the monsters. Still have to read that, and I still need to read the second book, Vengeful. That's the follow-up from Vicious, but I really like Vicious as well. And then there's an author on here and a book series that I've never heard of. So I'm not sure what this is doing on it. Maybe I'm not watching the right people on BookTube, who knows. But Rin Chupeco's Bone Witch, I've never heard of it. I don't know what this is about. I'm not too intrigued by it, to be quite honest. Something I have read and that I did quite enjoy is The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. That's what she's called, right? Yes. So this is the first one, Cinder, and then you have Scarlet, Cress, and Winter, I believe the fourth one is called. I even read the novellas that sort of come in between. I got rid of those over time, but I did really enjoy the series as a whole. I do think that not every single book is very strong. I liked Cinder and Cress best, but the other two were a bit, especially Scarlet, I didn't enjoy much. Then another author, Adam Silvera, who is again an author I've heard a lot of people raving about, but this is again the kind of writing I'm not very interested in. I think there's like We Will Both Die in the End, I think is one of his books. It's very sort of like more contemporary, and that's just not what I tend to go for, especially not if it's YA, because I'm in my 30s. I do not gel well with those kind of characters anymore. It's just a bit, and I don't like contemporary fiction, like for the most part. If it's like about real people's lives, I'm like, Cassandra Clare, Shadowhunters. I'm holding up the last installment. This is Chain of Gold. I've definitely read all of them apart from the Bane Chronicles, and I stopped being interested in like all the spin-offy bits like Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy and what have you. Not really interested. And one of the reasons why I keep reading these, but I'm always a bit torn with these because they have a very high entertainment level for me. But a bit like why I don't like contemporary fiction is that I feel that it's very old, especially these books by Cassandra Clare, they're so surface level. Like, it's very character driven, but I still feel we don't get enough of the characters, if you know what I mean. And then there's a book on this list that I haven't personally read, but I have read. Another book by the same author. So the book that's on the list is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I bought this one first because it just intrigued me the most, because it's about a 70s rock band, and I'm a huge music buff. So this was totally up my street, and I love this so much that now I've ordered The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Then an author that's on the list is Laini Taylor, and this is Strange the Dreamer, and I also have the second book in this series. It's a duology called Muse of Nightmares. And I also read her Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Dreams of Gods and Monsters trilogy. And a lot of people rave about her writing style. And I haven't read this yet, but I really like the cover of this. I haven't read the Strange the Dreamer duology yet. And I'm sort of umming and ahhing whether I should, because as much as I liked Daughter of Smoke and Bone, I decluttered those because I knew I would never reread them. So I enjoyed it, and especially like that whole like chimera versus angel kind of thing I liked, but it was very sort of romance heavy at its core, and I'm just not much for romance at all. Like, it's just not my thing. Another booktube darling is definitely this one, the Illuminae series by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This was sort of my first foray into sci-fi. I didn't read a lot of sci-fi, I still don't, but I'm trying to dip my toe in, and I think that this is a great way to dip your toe in when you do want to get into sci-fi. First of all, the covers are stunning, and this is a book that is told in like a mixed medium format. It's got like diagrams, and it's got like chat room kind of things, and it's got computer files and like these like designed pages. It's a really, really stunning book, and that's already like worth reading it. But especially the story in the first book, I really, really liked. The second one I also really enjoyed. The third one I thought, but you kind of need to read all three for everything to go together, because it's definitely that trilogy. But what I found that happened in the stories, and I actually feel the same way about some other YA series, is that the story, the actual plot, if you break it down, the same thing happens. So 3 books, the same sort of build up, the same sort of like, ooh, I didn't know you were here, you know? It was like very sort of samey for me, which is what sort of took away for me from these stories. But I loved Aiden. That was my favorite character. It's, in case you don't know who Aiden is, it's the AI computer of the spaceship. And that's my favorite character. That's all you need to know. If an AI is your favorite character, you know that the book is doing something weird and quirky. And I really, really liked that about these books. I really enjoyed them. And I got them, I hardly ever buy hardcovers, but these I wanted to own in the hardcovers because they're just so stunning. Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I have this. I haven't read it. I hear a lot of people raving about it. It's about everybody no longer dies, and then you have scythes who decide when people die. And that's, you know, again, a little bit dystopian. Neil Shusterman is an author that I think a lot of people read for like middle grade stuff, and then they sort of move into the YA realm. I've never read anything by him. The sole reason why I picked this up is because I heard so many people raving about it. No clue yet. I haven't really had the urgency. I haven't really felt like picking this up yet, but I have it just in case I want to. And then Sarah J. Maas. Sarah J. Maas is on this list as an author, and the only thing I've read by her is the entire Throne of Glass series. I've read every single book in it from start to finish, and I loved it. That is one of my favorite YA fantasy series. It has its flaws, I'm not gonna lie, but I loved how it came together in the end. I thought the 5th book, was it Queen of Storms? That I felt was a bit long and a bit, it went into places where I was like, do we really need to know about all this? But then the 6th book, I felt tied it all together, and not too nicely. Like, she wasn't afraid of like killing off certain characters, which I appreciated. I just haven't read A Court of Thorns and Roses yet. And that one I'm a bit about, because one thing I don't like about Sarah J. Maas is her love scenes. Like, she doesn't know how to write a sex scene. It's atrocious. It's so cringeworthy the way she writes them down. And apparently there is a lot of romance of that kind in A Court of Thorns and Roses, because it's more like new adult or whatever it is, whatever. It's sort of like the step between YA and adult fiction, I believe. I don't know why. It's just, that's what kind of throws me off, and I've heard it's quite like romance heavy, which is why I'm not reading it. However, I set myself the goal, like the Shatter Me series, to read that, but I'm actually much more excited for her new series. This is Crescent City, The House of Earth and Blood, and this is urban fantasy. And so I'm super intrigued because I love urban fantasy, and if it's coming from her, I would love to read from this. It's just that I'm not sure whether I can read this as a standalone series or whether I first should read A Court of Thorns and Roses, because I believe this is like fae-based, and I know that the Court of Thorns and Roses is also fae-based. So I'm not sure if I can go into this without having read A Court of Thorns and Roses. Can anybody help me out here? Because if I can, I much rather would start reading this than A Court of Thorns and Roses. I'm super excited for this one. Oh, and then we have An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. This is another book series that is actually on my 2020 TBR. This is again one of those books I picked up years ago and I just never got around to it. I believe this is like Roman Empire inspired fantasy. That's what I heard. Sounds cool. Don't know anything about it, but it's on my TBR for this year. Then an author that's on this list is Shannon McGuire. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. And a lot of people are raving about this. I've looked at the books in the bookstore and I'm not intrigued. Just not at all. I'm not even sure why. I'm just not down. I'm just not down. Something I am hopefully down with is this book, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. This is very raved about as well. It's a fantasy story that is apparently quite dark, and I like it if it has a bit of darkness. I don't like the whole like whimsical, like, ooh, fairies. Give me dark and grungy. I like that a lot more. So this, again, not something I know a lot about, but I am excited for it. And then last but not least on the list is To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. It's romance, it's contemporary, it's YA. It's got all the boxes. It ticks all the boxes of things I don't like. So no, not planning on reading it, not planning on watching it, not planning of doing anything of the sort. So that's really not my cup of tea. Sorry if you do like romance, but I'm just, give me action and blood and ripping people's guts out over, ooh, and then he looked at me, and I'm just not down. I'm just not down. I just don't like that sort of thing. Like, I like gory and dark and like vampire sucking people's blood out. I love that. But I don't like the whole like, ooh, and then he fell in love with me, and ooh, cringy, I made a mistake. All these letters now got sent, and ooh, now they know I like them. Like, just own it, you know? Like, I always find that it's like a non-issue in these like romancy kind of books, so that's why for me it's just a bit So yeah, those were the 18 books and authors that this video is all about. So please do this as well if you are watching this and you have a booktube channel. I believe you can also participate in this channel if you just want to post something on Instagram. I will make sure to link everything down below that I can find so that you can figure out yourself if you would like to participate. And I will also make sure to list the original video that got this whole train started, to list that in the description box down below as well. So I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. And I hope you are all very safe and you're staying healthy in these trying times. Bye.